Good morning, Friday, July 23rd. Today, I found out another reason why men are different from women. Now, we all know that we look different, we act different. Our ideas on life in many cases are much different than what women choose to believe or see or realize or whatever. I'm going to talk about today may be somewhat different depending upon where you live. For instance, I believe that the difference between men and women that I'm about to talk about may be different because city life is different than suburban life. But it's worth talking about. And what we're going to talk about is the carbon footprint of men versus the carbon footprint for women. Now, I don't know if we all understand exactly what the carbon footprint is. So briefly, I'll tell you the carbon footprint represents how much you affect the atmosphere with the creation of toxic gases, fuel emissions. And fuel emissions are not only caused by driving, but it also is caused by some of the foods we eat. So let me explain what's happening here. According to studies done in Sweden, the gender stereotypes are alive and well and harming our planet. Because this new study shows that men's passion for meat and cars is making them bigger contributors to greenhouse gases than women. The study that was carried out looked at single women and single men living in Sweden and considered their consumption and expenditure on goods such as food, household items, furnishing, holidays, and fuel for cars. Now, this is probably a very small universe, considering that Sweden is a small country. However, if you extrapolate that and assume that other countries like Sweden, and when I say like Sweden, I mean a country that's modern, like the US and Canada and England, a modern country where people have cars, people live in nice houses, people still burn oil to heat their houses and things like that, okay? I do not know if this would really hold true in some of the poorer countries in the world. Because maybe it'll be different depending upon the amount of suburban life and big city life that exists in many countries. So basically what I'm saying is that there may be a bias in this study, because if we don't take into account certain other environments that exist beyond the affluent countries, then I don't know if it will hold 100% true. But I think it's mostly true. So, this study found that Swedish men on average were responsible for producing 16% more greenhouse gases, including farts, than women, despite the fact that men only spend 2% more on goods in total than women do. I find that astounding. I can't believe that there are men in this world that are spending more than women. Because in my universe, I don't think that men could outshop any women. And the research was based upon Swedish spending habits. So maybe they're different in Sweden. And the study said that men were definitely higher contributors to carbon emissions, even though women seem to spend almost the same amount of money. But it said women tended to spend their money on low-emitting products, such as healthcare, furnishings, and clothes, while men spent 70% of their money on what the study called greenhouse gas-intensive items, cars, and maybe boats, and an occasional airplane or something. Blames this on single men because single men produce more emissions than women due to their higher car use. I can understand that because in my life it was very rare that a woman drove a car when they went out on a date with a man. And maybe that's the reason. Maybe these young guys are doing a lot of dating and they're picking up their dates, etc. And in Sweden, there is higher car-based holidays. And a car-based holiday generates 6 times more pollution than taking a train or maybe a plane. Maybe. They don't mention a plane. Then the study goes on to say that men could learn a lot from watching women shop, watching what they spend their money on, even though they're spending the same amount, roughly the same amount of money. So the studies also said men should be discouraged from using their car as much as they do, that public transportation would be a better way to spend their money. That men needed to be on a more sustainable diet, a more regular diet. That men should cut back on their eating of meat. And maybe if they cut back on eating meat, which is probably more expensive than most other edibles, then they would be spending less money than the women. Look at the results of this study and compare it to what's going on around the world with respect to our climate changes, then we must think that world governments have to take any suggestion seriously. So if men really have a larger carbon footprint than women, then we should do something about that. And I know part of the reason that men have a larger carbon footprint than women is because in many cases women are confined to doing hard work and not having to travel that far to do that hard work in many of the poorer countries. Women are responsible for a lot of the food production, etc. So women have jobs that men either can't do or won't do, and also those jobs might not require them to travel too far from home. So in any event, I believe that anything that points toward the eradication or reduction in these natural disasters is worth thinking about. So I leave you with that this morning, and I'll see you tomorrow.